First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, and everyone here today for the opportunity to talk about this importance and practice of temple disciplines. So we are still on this topic of talking about the temple, or 佛规礼节, what I call temple disciplines. Okay, basically. Well, we just, the previous topic that we talked about was the 15 temple rules and regulations. Those are kind of you can say really the spirit, they encompass the spirit of cultivation. So if you can really do those right, do those well, then, well, Holy Teacher says, basically, you can there's pretty much guaranteed that you can return to heaven. Okay. Now, when we say 佛规, right, the 佛规, and then the 礼节 part is kind of like propriety. So this whole thing is, I mean, this is like the general term for all the temple, what I would call disciplines, instead of saying rules, regulations, proprieties. That's kind of a mouthful. So I'll just use the word disciplines to encompass all of that, right? So. All right, so yes, so we're going to talk about the importance here. Now, when new members, enter the temple, we always mention these 佛规礼节, or temple rules, regulations, proprieties, or disciplines, okay, for short. And the thing is that they might feel kind of restricted because it's not very. Like if you go to churches and temples, for the most part, I mean, yes, in some temples there might be certain things that you have to observe, certain rules. Besides the general rules of being quiet and dignified, all that, which kind of applies to everywhere. But for the most part, if you just walk into a church or even Buddhist temples, there's no, well, first of all, you're not really, it's a little bit different with the Tao, because we receive the Tao, and that makes it different. And then we are kind of part of this Tao, the temple, the Tao field. Okay. But, these disciplines, you could say it does set us apart from just your other religions, religious practices. Now, religious practices, yeah, they have precepts for, or maybe commandments, but more like in Buddhism, for example, you have the precepts. I mean, but that's really for those who really are kind of getting into cultivating. I guess that's true for us too. I mean, that we would, if we are going to pursue this path of Buddhahood, then yes, we also need to learn and practice those disciplines. But this is really, and actually our disciplines are not necessarily, they're not necessarily as, I guess, maybe strict as like the Buddhist ones, assuming that you want to become like a monk, then they have all sorts of hundreds of precepts, okay, or rules and regulations that they have to follow, practice. So we don't have that many, but still, the emphasis on ours, just like if you remember from the last topic of the 15 rules and regulations, that it's a lot of it relates to what's internal. Okay, so the Buddha nature, following our Buddha nature, okay, manifesting our Buddha nature. So that's really the getting to the essence of it. Okay, whereas in most religious practices, it's kind of external. It's really those disciplines are external for the most part. Okay, I mean, they do have things like meditation. I mean, you can say that's kind of an internal thing, but it's still not getting to the essence, which is the Buddha nature. Okay, so anyways, so that's why it's very important. All right, but people still feel like, well, or you come in here now, you're telling me I have to, now I have to come and do the arrival vows when I enter the temple, and then I have to do the departure vows when I leave, and then we have to kind of sit, the male, females separate seating, and there are all sorts of different things, little rules, proprieties that have to be observed. But again, these are essential for us to, if we want to become a Buddha, if we choose to take that path of Buddhahood, they're essential. Okay, we have to learn and practice them. Okay, and this is, I'm not saying that, the Buddhas are saying that. Okay, but the restriction, we feel restricted, or new people might feel restricted because they're not used to it. Okay, it's plain and simple. It's habits, not part of their habit. Or, it could be also some people might feel like, well, hey, I should be free to do whatever I want. Okay, so now, but then that's the mindset where there's a slight problem there with the mindset. Okay. But anyways, all right, so we'll get into that. All right, so however, these disciplines are actually the best way to help shape the members who aspire to achieve in their cultivation practice. Yes, because we don't know what's needed really to become a Buddha. We think, oh, well, I just need to become enlightened. Well, what does that really mean? Enlightened is just not in our mind that we just say, oh, I suddenly understand. But if I understand, then I would have to follow through with my actions, right? So the disciplines are part of that. So you can't separate that. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm enlightened, I don't have to do anything. That doesn't make sense. Okay, an enlightened person, if you look at the Buddhas, the saints, the sages, they're enlightened. But did they just sit there and not do anything? No, of course not. They still practice. Okay, so that's important. The practice is essential. Okay. So the same for us. If we really aspire to achieve in this cultivation or on this path to Buddhahood, then we must practice the disciplines. Okay, and they help us. They guide us to the right way. To adhere strictly to the disciplines is the practice and manifestation of the Tao, right? So it really is a manifestation of the Tao. It's not just, in other words, these are not made up. These rules or disciplines are not made up by humans, right? It's set by heaven, or you can say heaven's mandate, right? As we mentioned in the previous topic, and these are heaven's rules, okay? Like it or not, they are heaven's rules. Okay, so it's important that we understand what the rules, the disciplines, the proprieties. Once we can understand, again, this is maybe to rationalize to rationalize it for ourselves, but ultimately, we really need to we have to go beyond just the rationalization of it, and really. I guess, I don't know what the word is, to realize that this should be, this is what we're supposed to be doing. It should be natural, okay, because it's coming from, if we were to follow our Buddha nature, then we would do it naturally, okay. So as we, talked about in the previous topic, the 15 temple rules and regulations. So these are not just external rules, regulations and proprieties. They are more importantly the internal regulations and proprieties of our conscience and Buddha nature. Okay. So the Sangang, Wu Chang. Okay, these are the 3 mainstays and 5 constants. The Wu Lun Ba, the 5 cardinal relationships and 8 virtues. And the Sancong Sida are the 3 obediences, 4 virtues, are the criteria or the ground rules of Tao cultivation. So these are, if you look at these are like very kind of basic, you can say like social type of rules of, engagement or relationships, right? And that's kind of part of what we call the Tao or the way of humanity, okay? Because we are supposedly cultivating the Tao, right? We're getting the Tao of heaven, right? But to really achieve the Tao of heaven, we have to cultivate the Tao of humanity, right? We have to achieve in the Tao of humanity to achieve the Tao of heaven, right? We can't just jump up there and say, oh, just become a Buddha without being a upright, proper human being, okay? So that's why these are all important. And that's why they're considered to be like, I don't know, the ground rules is exactly right, but it's like the basic criteria for being, in the Tao cultivation. Now, okay, so just to quickly review what these are, the three mainstays are these are the three of the relationships of the five cardinal relationships. So it's relationship between rulers and subjects, or you can say, for example, like now you have the leader of a country and its citizens, or you can have employer and employees, okay, that kind of relationship. And then relationship between husband and wife, and also the relationship between parents and children. Okay, so these are kind of the three basic social relationships that exist in any society. Okay, so that's why they're called three mainstays. And the five constants are what we typically say, five constant virtues: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, faith, or sincerity. Okay, now actually in here, basically say benevolence, righteousness, and propriety are kind of like the external, you can say the external aspects of it. Okay, so and this was also discussed in the Tao Te Ching, chapter 38, right? And then you have wisdom, and then faith / sincerity. Okay, so but this is the internal, okay, side aspect, right? And then the five cardinal relationships. So besides the three mainstays, then you also have among siblings or kind of peers within like the family or extended family, and also among friends. Okay, so altogether these five relationships are the five possible relationships in any society. The 8 virtues are filial piety, brotherly love, loyalty, trust and trustworthiness, okay, propriety, righteousness, integrity or honor, and sense of shame. Okay, so these are all virtues that, as human beings, we can manifest. We can express all of these virtues. Okay, so therefore, this is something that we need to work on. So these are like different aspects that we have to cultivate. And then 3 obediences. Okay, I've mentioned this in the past as well. It's basically referring to the woman in general. I mean, so it's basically the obedience to the father before marriage, obedience to the husband after marriage, and obedience to the son after husband's death. Okay, so now this this is of course during the time of Confucius. Back then, that's how the society was that way. It's not as equal, then as it is today, where now you have more equality between the sexes. So anyways, and then the 4 virtues, right, of morality, proper speech, gentle or modest manner, and diligent work. Okay, again, this is kind of referring to women. Okay, so this is back in the days where they were mostly homemakers. Okay, they weren't working outside. Okay, so cultivating Tao is to cultivate the heart and mind, right? To dispel the chaos, the 7 emotions and 6 desires from the false or misleading mind. If not for the initial restraints of temple disciplines becoming habitual and natural, how can one control or manage the heart and mind, right? So, yeah, for the most part, people will do whatever they may not necessarily intentionally do things, do wrong things, but perhaps they don't realize that they're doing something wrong. Okay, and they says, based on habit or what they, cultural norms that they think that it's okay to do this. But then so that's why we do need the restraints, if you will, of the temple disciplines to kind of to show that the temple is not the same as being in a social club or anywhere else. Okay, it's different. Plus, not just being in the temple, but as a cultivator, someone who's a practitioner of the Tao, that there are, there's something else. We can't just be normal people, okay? Although we are, in the sense that we live kind of normal lives for the most part. You can have family, you can go to school, you can work, all that. You don't have to become a monk and give up everything, but we still live by these disciplines, the principles. Okay, so and that does make us different than your common person. And as a cultivator, even though we try to, we don't try to say that we're above most people, we're different from most people, but we don't have to say that. But it's what our actions are. Okay, so it's based on our actions, and that it will show. Okay, it will show that we are, more, you can say, more virtuous or whatever, more principled. Okay, all right. Okay, so rules are for those who. Okay, so this is rules are for those who do not follow rules. Okay, and laws are for those who are afraid of the laws. Therefore, for those who are law-abiding, the laws are not considered restraints. And for those who self-reflect, to follow the rules is only a natural response of habits and duties in life. Okay, so yeah, people who are always, going against the rules or the laws, breaking the laws. For them, it's like these things. Why can't I do whatever I want? Why do I need to be bound by these rules? But if we are, let's say, we're law-abiding, right? So then having these laws doesn't really impact me, right? I mean, it doesn't impact us. It's not, and it doesn't feel like there's a particular restriction by these laws. If we are naturally law-abiding, we say, oh, okay, that's fine. I don't need to go and break this law. I mean, this is fine. I don't need to do that, right? So the same thing in cultivation with these disciplines. If we are self-reflective, introspective, then we would not try to break or disregard the laws or the rules or disciplines, and it would become natural. Okay, it's a natural response to this is what I should do. I should, follow these rules, practice them, these disciplines, right? And it could become a habit, that we just do that. And so, and we would consider it to be kind of a natural duty in our life, part of our duties. Okay. So that is, you can say that's, having that right mindset. All right. Not the mindset of saying, oh, anything, whatever I want to do, I do, anything goes. That's a completely unrestrained, and if we don't follow the principles, then we're going to start creating karma and sins and all sorts of things. Okay. The true meaning of temple disciplines is not only the external form or ritual or even bending of the waist during koto or bowing, right? But sincere respect is the key point. So it's really, these disciplines, there's a form for a lot of them. They, especially like the proprieties, there's a form, right? It's an external form, in terms of the rituals, ceremonies. how we do the bowing, okay? But really, yes, we should get the form right, do it properly. But really what's more important is that sincere respect from within. Okay, so that's, again, the internal side of it that is more important. That's the essence. Okay, so without that sincerity, without that respect, then we're just going through some motions and it's meaningless. On the outside, it may look like it's okay, but it's not really helping us at all. So we have to also, part of the discipline is to transform our mindset to make it so that it is proper, that we show that respect, that sincerity, right? That's really the genuine self is there. All right. Okay. So to truly understand temple disciplines is to realize that they are a helping hand, and living, learning, cultivating, and practicing Tao will be more unrestrained and at ease, right? So if we accept the disciplines as being something that really is helpful to our cultivation, helpful to us in achieving our goal of ultimately, becoming Buddha, then it becomes more natural, and we will definitely be more than willing to follow, to practice them. Okay, and then again, we won't feel like we're being restrained by these rules and disciplines. It's very natural. Okay, so we'll be at ease. So that's kind of the level that we need to get to. Initially, we might say, I'm not used to it. It goes against my, my habits or whatever. But we have to get over that. Once we can get over that, until so if we're still struggling with that, then it's going to be difficult for our cultivation, for us to progress in our cultivation. So we have to kind of work on that and get to the point where it feels very natural that, this is what I should be doing. Okay. Therefore, if temple rules and regulations are not understood and proprieties are not complete or satisfactory, it will hinder our future achievement in Tao cultivation and practice. Right? As a resource, working for heaven, so that's pretty much all of us. We are heaven's helpers, heaven's angels, if you will. I mean, we're performing heaven's work. Then we must know the temple disciplines, obey and put them into practice. Right? Only by punctuality, trust, and upholding our duties can we teach and guide the Hoshi. Okay, so those are, so obviously, if we are just freewheeling, doing however way we want, without any kind of following any kind of rules or any kind of disciplines, then, how can we really properly guide those who follow the Hoshi? Okay, so part of this then is that if we practice the disciplines well, then we set a good example for others to follow, right? All right. Okay, so importance of temple rules, regulations. You can say the external aspects are, so the temple regulations are the precepts, rules, and laws of the Tao cultivator, right? So precepts, for the most part, they're all external, right? Not killing, not stealing, not or whatever. It could be, being vegetarian, whatever. These are all external. The other rules and whatever laws there might be, these are all kind of external. Okay, the guardian of the law. Okay, so this Buddha saint says, right, the temple regulations are the laws and disciplines and the standard to achieve Buddhahood. Right, so I didn't say that, right? So, so the Buddha said that that we must follow the temple regulations and to achieve, and the disciplines to achieve Buddhahood. Right, so they are the standard by which we can do that. The proprieties are the principle and standard for people to respond with a sense of propriety. Okay, so there are certain proprieties besides like the ritual ceremonies. There's the etiquette, right? The you can say the manners, the even like the protocol, right? That's all part of this propriety, the proprieties. Okay, so now if cultivators are not guided by the restraints of precepts, rules, and regulations, it is not easy for sentient beings to control their desires, selfish desires, and delusions. It is even harder to resist the temptations of the world and easy to follow the crowd, let alone to cultivate Tao to achieve Buddhahood, right? So again, because of maybe how we're brought up, we're brought up in society, and society has their own rules and norms of behavior and what you can do. It's different for cultivators. We can't remember, we are kind of going against the current of society for the most part. Society today is going in the wrong direction, morally speaking, okay, spiritually speaking. It's going in the wrong direction. It's going towards more materialism, more, you can say, freedom to do whatever you want. This is going the wrong way. Okay, so we as cultivators have to go against that current. All right, if we expect to succeed and to achieve in our cultivation, all right, we can't follow them. All right, now, so that's why that's why these disciplines exist. Okay, to help guide us back in the other direction. Now, and so that's it'll help. It can help us, like especially like the precepts. They can help you to break maybe certain habits or or vices, things like that, right? Okay, under this external, so in the 15 temple rules and regulations that we talked about in the previous topic, there's, for the most part, there's the external, and then there's also the internal aspects. And then also I would mention that the Chen Shang Qi Xia, right? That's one that I mentioned a lot. It's not part of the 15, but you can say it's kind of encompasses part of those. But that's like the protocol between like those who are above and those who are below, or before us and after us. But that's, you can say that's kind of the external one. The other one is the internal one, which is the 尊师重道. Okay, so that respect the teachers in the Tao. Okay, so I would put that in the internal category. Okay, so the temple regulations is the heavenly ladder that helps cultivators to achieve Buddhahood, right? The proprieties is the lubricant that facilitates harmony when people perform their duties and deal with people and matters. Okay, so without proprieties, in other words, there's certain way, so that's why you can say that's a protocol, certain way that you deal with situations and people, that if everyone follows these proprieties or the protocols, then you're less likely to end up in conflict, okay? That things will be more harmonious, right? And then so in this way, temple regulations, excuse me, guides and assists us to restore our original natural state, our Buddha nature, our conscience. So they are trying to get us away from the selfish desires, the ego, all of these things, to kind of get us back to our original self, the Buddha nature, the conscience. Okay, to achieve the way of Buddha, we must start with the way of humanity. Okay, so the Tao of humanity, and demonstrate that we are not like common sentient beings in both words and actions. Right, so we do kind of stand apart from the common sentient beings. Okay, common people. That we have to be better, in other words. not too proud of ourselves or being arrogant. No, not like that. But in fact, we should still we need to be humble. But but it does sets us apart and from the common people. Now the way of humanity has a broad scope. Covering what we do when we are alone, up to our interactions with others in society. In all situations, we should show that we as Tao cultivators are not following the crowd. Through the help of cultivation, we are naturally more accommodating and nurture virtues. Okay. Now, when I say not following the crowd, I'm not saying that we cannot be involved in society. I'm saying that we should not follow all their whatever the common whatever customs they might have. That if it's hey, if you look at this society, well, yeah, pretty much most societies, or almost all societies, eating meat is natural. But as cultivators, we shouldn't just say, oh, okay, yeah, this is what people do. It's natural. We can't just follow that, okay? Because we have compassion, right? And we know about karma, and therefore we should not be following them to eat meat, okay? As an example. So yeah, all right. So and then all right, temple regulations are formulated in the way of saints, sages, and Buddhas as the guidelines for our conduct. Right. So again, these are not, people didn't just make up these regulations, these disciplines. They came from enlightened beings, okay, and those who were already enlightened, and so they know what's needed to help sentient beings, common sentient beings, to become cultivators and ultimately to succeed, to become Buddhas in the end. Okay, so if we lose control of ourselves, we lose sight of our goal, then we have wasted a lifetime of cultivation. So, yeah, don't. That's why, some people maybe. They say, oh yeah, I'm a cultivator, right? I cultivate in my own way. Okay, I don't have to follow your rules. I don't have to practice, your disciplines. I just do it in my way, right? But it's very dangerous. Okay, so the Buddha's already said that these temple disciplines are the way to achieve Buddhahood, and if we don't follow them, we don't practice them, then it's very dangerous that, we probably will most likely not be able to achieve Buddhahood. Okay. Yeah, I remember at this temple we went to in New Zealand, and this guy, he had received the Tao, but he doesn't really, he just, when he comes to the temple, he doesn't follow the regular, the rules, whatever. He just does his own thing. And he leaves, but so that there's that's not going to get him anywhere. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I mentioned this already. So these two I've mentioned. I talked about before that basically they kind of, you can say they can represent all the 15 temple rules and regulations. But you can say that you can split them into the internal and the external. The propriety, the protocol is external, and the others is the internal aspect. Okay. All right. So Confucius says, right, without knowing fate, we cannot be a Junzi. Right, Junzi is that. You can say superior person. Without knowing propriety, we cannot interact in society. Right? Without knowing speech or words. We cannot know others, right? Learn by way of culture or refinement, okay? Restrain by way of propriety. Okay, so fate or destiny, right, is very objective because it is determined by karma. Okay, so that's what this is talking about, the karmic fate. Some people do not realize that the ups and downs in life, right, the vicissitudes of life are determined by their karmic fate. Right? When things are going well, people are happy and think that they can do anything. But when there is adversity, people are discouraged and complain to heaven and resent others, right? Feeling dejected and thinking that they cannot do anything, right? Like feeling like, the world is ending. Okay. So this is lacking the demeanor or bearing of a Jingzi, right? If we know our fate, then when we climb up a mountain, we are prepared for the eventual climb down the mountain. When the tide is high, we can think of the inevitable low tide. So when our career and endeavors are going well, we will not be too proud and arrogant. On the contrary, when things are not going well, we can think of positive changes, to be optimistic. Right? During times of difficulty, we can think of good times to come. Right? The clouds give way to the sun. There's light at the end of the tunnel. When we are frustrated in our career or endeavors, we will not be dispirited. So is this not the manner of a Jingzi? Okay. So, okay, and then, okay, so the second thing, so we have to know, realize that fate, is kind of determined by the karma, and so we have to accept the karma, accept the consequences, okay, but we have to know how to how to function within society, and that's done through, you can say, the rules of propriety, etiquette, things like that. And then when he's talking about the speech and words, basically is to understand. Let me see. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Now I talk about the propriety. Sorry. Propriety is the basis of social interaction and communication. Right. During the time of Confucius, propriety was a general concept that included rituals and ceremonies, courtesy, politeness, discipline, or rules of etiquette, and other behavioral norms. Propriety is used to regulate interpersonal relationships. Therefore, if we do not know propriety and become uninhibited and indulgent in our behavior, then we may cause inconvenience to others and arouse their disgust or hatred towards us. Such behavior will get us nowhere, and we will be frustrated. Okay, so then how can we interact in society and establish ourselves, right, to be like an upstanding citizen? Right? If we end up breaking the law, we could end up in jail or even lose our life. Okay, so that's why there is the saying of there's the saying of this other thing here. It says those who have propriety are at ease or safe. Those who have not, or they don't have propriety, are at peril or in danger. Therefore, we must learn from the person of propriety. Okay, so. So basically we have to follow what, the proprieties, the protocols, the proper, what's proper, the etiquette, things like that. Okay, otherwise we just do things, with any which way, then that we can be in trouble. Now, Confucius, he's a person of propriety and is especially observant of proprieties. Right? Propriety has permeated into his words and actions. It has become his lifelong, unchanging habit, and can be said to be a part of his life. No matter what situation or people he encounters, he can always naturally do the right thing, okay, or whatever is appropriate. Now, how does he observe the proprieties? Right. So when traveling in a carriage, right, he stands and salutes or greets one or two people, as he passes them. But if there are more people, then he actually gets out of the carriage and salutes or greets them. Okay. Now, especially he would stop the carriage for people who are in mourning. Okay, they're grieving. or people who are of importance. Okay. Now, sitting in the carriage, right, he does not constantly move his head and look all around. While in the carriage, he's also not concerned about other things. He doesn't talk loudly. He doesn't point his finger everywhere. Right? This is just one example. Okay, so but in every situation, Confucius integrated propriety into his words and conduct. Therefore, he could be called a true gentleman. Okay, so yeah, so Confucius definitely, he was very, he felt that propriety is very important in life, in our everyday life. Okay, and he lived it. Okay, he lived it according to that principle. So, why must we know the words of others? Okay, so if we do not even understand what others are saying, then how can we understand them? So, okay. Now, so some people, they live their whole lives with very few acquaintances. And part of the reason is not knowing the words of others. Okay, so because they don't understand, right, what they're saying. The causal relationship between not knowing the words and not knowing the person can be said in reverse. So, in other words, you could say, not knowing the person, then we do not know their words, right? That is, if we don't understand the person's character, their personality, temperament, preferences, and background, then we may not know the intent of their words or what, to say to them. Right, so this is in both directions, right? To understand what the other person is saying and also to know what is appropriate to say to the other person. There's a saying, right? You sing an appropriate song, I guess on a mountain, whatever, on the appropriate mountain. We speak suitable words. Okay. In other words, right? Are the words appropriate for the person and the occasion? Okay. So a person who does not know how to speak or use words appropriately is not really interested in getting to know others. Such a person just cares about themselves and telling others about their feelings, etc. Right? So some people, they're not interested in listening to other people. They just want to talk about themselves. Okay. Therefore, to speak well, we should think from from the perspective of the other person, to put ourselves in their shoes. When we know what the other person likes or dislikes, and we know how to cater to and avoid their likes and dislikes, then we can easily get the other person's interest in our communication and interaction with them, right? That makes a lot of sense, that we have to know how to communicate. We have to understand the other person. We have to understand what they're saying. And so that also helps us to know how should we talk to them, okay? So that's very important. So listening is very important, right? That's not just talking. We have to listen as well. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. So temple regulations and proprieties is a kind of correct and appropriate attitude towards life. Right? To cultivate Tao is to cultivate the mind. The cultivator practices and changes him or herself. If the human mind can change, then the Tao mind can be put into practice. Therefore, to cultivate Tao, we must learn to be a correct or proper human being. Okay, and so that involves the Tao of humanity, right? Practicing the Tao of humanity. Now, Mencius said, right, there is a fine difference between humans and animals. Common people discard it, but dreams preserve it. Okay. A truly proper human understands the value and meaning of life and knows to use the correct and appropriate attitude towards life to manifest and cultivate the fine difference to fulfill the purpose and mission in life. Okay, so this fine difference, all right, if you think about it, animals, humans are really not that different from animals biologically, right? We share, like, I don't know, depending on the species, we can share up to like 90% or more of their DNA. So biologically, there's not that much difference, but it's really, you can say the spiritual, the mental, spiritual, the mindset, all that, and the attitude towards life. This is what sets us apart, our virtues. Okay. So it's so what Mencius said, it's actually being very generous to some people because their thoughts, words, and behavior do not even meet the standards of animals, right? Animals are generally not willful and wanton in what they're in their actions. Okay, it's basically all about survival, right? They have their own social structure and norms. So if we throw away the rules of human behavior, then we are no better and maybe even worse than animals. Right? Humans are biologically similar to animals, right? If aliens or enlightened beings observe the animal and human life on our planet, they will not see much distinction between, many humans and animals, right? Only a few humans stand above the crowd. What makes them stand above the rest is not how famous or wealthy or powerful they are, but rather that they are people of virtue, right? Feats of physical strength, external power, etc., can also be found among animals. And on a relative basis, humans are actually weaker than animals. So what sets us apart from animals is our conscience, our virtues of filial piety, the 8 virtues, and basically benevolence, wisdom, faith, right? So animals may exhibit certain limited virtues, such as filial piety and loyalty, but only humans are capable of manifesting all the virtues, right? That is what sets humans apart from animals. And, so we can call it our humanity, right? It's not the technology that we develop or the cities that we build. Those external things are useless without our humanity, right? For example, some people say, hey, it's time to go to Mars, right? Colonize Mars. Well, unless, they're all dreams, you're going to go there and export all humanity's problems to Mars. You're not addressing, technology does not address those basic fundamental issues of, the morality, that kind of thing, right? So that's what the Tao is all about, and what Confucius was talking about is that we have to address the essence. The root of the problem is in the human heart and mind. Okay. Okay, so this is just basically just to mention. All right, so spiritual evolution is not automatic. Because some people say, oh, okay, well, they reincarnation, yeah. So generally, animals should become humans, and it's kind of upward mobile, right? And humans should not go back become animals. Well, but we must. So we have to go against the current of the self, the ego, desires, attachments, etc., to achieve spiritual awakening. Okay, so we look at kind of evolution. This is a very broad. I mean, the way I did it is this is not a specific way of doing it, but it's kind of generally from the very, you can say the almost insignificant, right, from insects to kind of non-mammals, like cold-blooded, reptiles, amphibians, whatever, even the other animals, and then it goes up to the next level of mammals, and then to humans are the highest form of biological being, right? Or animal, really. Okay. Now, what characterize the difference? I was saying, like the virtues. Okay, so basically, from insects, pretty much you can say that they have no virtue. Well, some may have. Okay, like bees, perhaps, maybe even ants. I mean, some of them they do have some kind of virtue there. But then so it's basically going from almost zero virtues all the way up the chain to humans who have all the virtues. Okay, so some mammals, like like I said, there's certain for example, loyalty, right? You can say dogs are very loyal, horses can be very loyal. Okay, so they show certain virtue, or one or two maybe, but they don't have all the virtues. They can't manifest all the virtues. Only humans can do that. So that's what makes humans special. But at the same time, if we don't manifest those virtues, then there's nothing that really sets us apart from the animals. Okay, and the same applies to spirituality. Okay, so down here at the insect level, there's basically no spirituality, and it go all the way up to humans who have the highest spirituality, and same with free will. Okay, so in an animal world, there's very little free will. Maybe the mammals, certain animals have more, but humans have free will. I mean, you can do anything you want. Okay. So if we do not nurture our virtues as a human being should, right, follow the conscience, manifest the 8 virtues, etc., then we can lose the privilege, right? It's not a right, it's a privilege to be a human, right, in the next life and revert back to becoming lower life form sentient beings with fewer virtues, right? In Chinese, right, they say 缺德, right? 缺德 meaning lacking in virtue. Okay, so as I said earlier, humans have the potential to manifest all the virtues. Therefore, if humans disregard and go against their innate virtues, then the effect is to forfeit that privilege of being a human being in the next life. Right? Realize that the lower we are as a sentient being, the longer it takes to reach the next higher level sentient being. Right? So to get from insects to humans, you can't even talk about that. I mean, they have to first go up the ladder, so to speak, up the chain, work their way up, and that's going to take, for insects. I mean, it's I don't know how many lifetimes. Okay, so we should be very careful. Realize that fine difference that mentions is, we better preserve that. We better uphold that. Make sure that we nurture all those virtues, or else we're going to end up even as a mammal. Let's say we end up as being a pig or a cow or something like that. It's not just, you just revert back for one lifetime and then you're back as a human. No, it's many lifetimes. Okay, so, and the lower down you go, the more lifetimes it is. So it could be hundreds, or maybe who knows? Like as an insect, it may take. It's not clear how many. Well, I can't say in terms of time, in terms of absolute time, but in terms of lifetimes, it's a lot. Okay. All right. So to completely fulfill our duties and responsibilities as a human being is to make progress on the road to Buddhahood. It is by way of the Tao of humanity that we can achieve the Tao of heaven. Right. So the correct and appropriate attitude towards life is contained in the broad scope of temple disciplines. Okay. Okay. Now here, basically there's this saying here. Oh, this is from I guess Confucius said this. Okay. So it says 克己复礼. Okay. So subdue or deny the self and return to propriety. Right. And basically it was Yen Hui, right, Master Yen, who asked Confucius about Ren, or humanity, the word Ren. Okay. And that's what Confucius replied, is 克己复礼. And then basically Yen Hui kind of asked further to, how do you achieve that? And then Confucius mentioned what we call the su'u, the 4 prohibitions. You could say, so do not look at, listen to, speak, or do what is contrary to propriety. Okay, so now, okay, so to deny the self, right, is to, you could say maybe this is considered passive, to restrain one's selfish desires and refrain from doing that which is inhumane, unkind, or you can say that's contrary to propriety. Okay, to return to propriety is to, this, you can say this is the active part, do that which is kind or beneficial, to others with the correct and appropriate behavioral norms, right? Now, here is it very interesting, because in the Bible, right, for example, in Matthew 16:24, it says, if anyone desires to come after me, right, this is Jesus talking, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Well, this is exactly the same as what Confucius said. Okay, so basically to deny the self, right, is to deny one's selfish desires, all that kind of thing. And to take up his cross, you can say return to propriety is the same thing. It's following your Buddha nature, following your conscience, following the propriety. Okay, so this is just to show you that, yeah, Jesus was talking about the same principles. Okay, it's just in different words, different ways, in a different cultural context, all that. Okay, but so we have to go beyond I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it, we have to go beyond the words, beyond the surface, to see really that it is the same essence, the same principles in all these teachings. All right. It's the essential, the disciplines, right? These rules, regulations, proprieties are the essential ladder for the achievement of Buddhahood. We as spiritual or light beings come from heaven, and in the end, we must know to return to heaven. Okay, so if we don't, then we are just a sentient being, and we continue to be a sentient being, and we will continue to suffer. So, but we know, having received the Tao, we should know that where we come from, and that is where we should go back to. Okay, return back to our original source, the source. Okay, after countless reincarnations. Okay, so as human beings, right, we are the closest sentient beings to the path of Buddhahood, right? Just and animals cannot cultivate to become a Buddha, right? Only humans can. So that's why we should not, we should never be lacking in our virtues, so that we don't fall into the path of animals. Right? Aside from the goal of achieving Buddhahood, there is no other goal in this life, really. I mean, that's so. If we are truly awakened, then we will realize that that is our goal. Okay? The reason for humanity's presence in the world is to evolve spiritually, to return to our original place or state, to make up for the deficiencies of the world, and to harmonize with all things. Okay. So after countless reincarnations, right, we have to have a human life, is the closest we have been in this cycle to the path of Buddhahood. Right? Thus, we must not turn back, not turn away from the path of Buddhahood, or else we would have wasted the long journey over countless lifetimes getting here, right? Maybe we don't realize how long it's taken us to get here today, to be a human being, right? The Buddha, there's the Buddha, little Buddha, I guess using a metaphor for a human life, to have a human life is that turtle, the sea turtle, right? Coming up from the depths of the ocean, and somehow when it surfaces, that its head is sticking through this plank of wood that has a hole in it, and is sticking through that hole. Okay, so what are the chances of that? Very slim. Okay, so we have to cherish our lives. Our human life is very precious. And we say, well, right now we have over 7 billion people, going on 8 billion, and so you say, well, that's a lot. I mean, it's like a dime a dozen. But every human life is precious, because we are the closest to on this path of Buddhahood. Okay, so but for most people, of course, they don't realize that, they don't know that, and so you can say that it's kind of a wasted life if they don't know, right? So that's what part of the Tao, the propagation of the Tao, is to try to awaken, to enlighten others to this fact. All right. Let's see. All right. So therefore, it is necessary to understand where to start on this final leg of the journey. Right. Now that we are human beings, we receive the Tao, and we know that we learn to cultivate the Tao, so that we can, or cultivate the way of the Tao of humanity, to ultimately to be able to achieve Buddhahood. Okay, so that's here. Okay. All right. So now, so there's meanings. All right. So the way, if you use those two, right? The Folkui, the temple regulations, is the aid to achieve Buddhahood. The Li Jie, the propriety, is to fulfill the fundamental duties of a human being. Right? The holy hand seal, for example, it's also known as the covenant, right? Is more than just a form, right? It represents the pure and innocent mind, that there is a beginning and end to cultivation, right? So in other words, we have to know that when we cultivate, that it's not just cultivating for one day. It's actually, it's for a lifetime, okay? That only when we can do that we can achieve, all right? The 15 temple rules is a bright wisdom lamp lighting the path to Buddhahood, okay? Okay, so just, so we had just talked about the 15 temple rules last time, but this is what they are, right? Respect the Buddha, follow Chen and guide Hoshi, maintain dignity and righteousness, observe the rules and proprieties, take responsibility, emphasize the holy over the mundane, be humble and kind, do not discard holy teachings, do not be attached to forms and appearances, keep procedures clear and honest, notify when departing and returning, do not disrupt the system, value public resources, have lively response to matters, and be cautious and prudent in words and actions. But of course, there is a lot of subtlety and nuance in all of these rules that, if you don't remember, you should refer back to the previous topic, all right, because that was talked about in detail. The temple is a sacred Dharma boat, right, where Tao cultivators learn, cultivate, and practice. They ferry themselves and others. Okay, so that's the temple is a very special place because that's what we can do here in the temple, especially to be able to ferry ourselves and others to get to the shore of enlightenment. Okay. If we cannot restrain ourselves with external disciplines, we may commit faults and sins without knowing, and if we do not self-reflect, then we will not change. Right? So cultivators are still sentient beings with many habits and shortcomings, right? We're not perfect. That's why we do need these guides, right? The guidance from Buddhas and saints and sages and their teachings that they left behind to guide us. And that includes, right, these temple disciplines, the rules and regulations. That's all part of that. And so we can't just ignore or disregard some of it and accept only part of it. That's not complete, and that's and also shows that that we have the wrong attitude as well. Okay, so if we use human conscious mind to do things, constantly abiding in duality, right and wrong, whatever is subject-object duality, then it will be difficult to rectify and make the temple solemn. How then can we be of one mind, a role model for sentient beings, and attract those who have affinity and faith, right? So therefore, this Dharma boat, this in the temple, as cultivators, we must all be, follow these, practice the principles, the disciplines. When we do that, then people who come in, they're not looking for another, just social gathering type of place. They can get that anywhere. The temple is somewhere different, okay, where they can seek spirituality, okay, so higher level spirituality, and ultimately to seek become a Buddha, okay. So that's why this is all very important. Let me see. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so the rules of ethical order for a dignified temple, right? They include these things, among others. Actually, this is maybe so. Yeah, 三清四正, right? 尊师重道, 承上启下. Okay, so I mentioned these already. 四条佛规 is the 15 temple rules. Okay, so all right, so okay, so the 3 distinctions for proprieties I've talked about before, right? The respect and the teachers and the Tao protocol between the above and the below, 15 temple disciplines. Okay, and then there's also this other thing, the 24 temple rules. Okay, so these are kind of a little bit more kind of basic rules of behavior within the temple. Okay, and so this is what they are. Dress appropriately when you come to the temple. Okay, so this is should go without saying. You're not going to any old place. It's just like when people go to church, right? They go with they wear their Sunday best, right? Isn't that's what they say? So you kind of dress well. We don't say you have to dress well, but basically dress, at least look dignified. Okay, don't come in with torn jeans or and T-shirts, and all that kind of stuff. So usually, we ask that people have, have a collar, they have sleeves, okay, and they're not wearing shorts, things like that. All right. Arrival and departure bows. Okay, so when we do come to the temple, that is really the first thing that we should do is, well, besides, we clean our hands, and we come in and do the arrival bows, okay, the kato. And when we leave, same thing, we take the departure bows, which is basically the same as the arrival ones. Okay, so that's kind of part of the proprieties. Okay, the male before the female. This is what this is saying is that when, let's say, a group of Daokin come to the temple, you have male, female, then that the males go first in terms of like performing the arrival bows, and then the females do it next. Okay. And then the male on the right, females on the left. Again, this is part of the propriety where there's a kind of a separation. Like if you're standing, at attention, let's say in the temple during a ceremony or a ritual, that the males are on the right side, while when looking facing the altar, and then the females are on the left side, standing on the left side. Quiet footsteps, right? We shouldn't be running around, stomping, making a lot of noise when we're moving about. Okay. Do not disturb the class. If there's a class going on, of course, we should not, especially if we are entering the class, don't make noises and don't distract others, okay, and don't cause a commotion. Being solemn and quiet in movement, again. So as we're moving around, don't create a scene. Don't make noise if not necessary. Right. We have to follow the rules and disciplines. Okay. So that's all the rules and disciplines that we're talking about. Be in all Buddhas. Okay. So basically, towards God, Lamu, right? All the Buddhas and saints. We have to have, be in awe of them, okay? And so this is something that, we can't be too proud of ourselves, saying, hey, I'm so great. We're nothing compared to the Buddhas, okay? So we have nothing to be too proud about. All right, so talk about holy manners. Now, this is something, there's sometimes we might chit-chat in the temple, but generally, we should just stick to holy matters, the matters of Dao affairs or whatever, encouraging Daokin, things like that. Not be shooting the breeze all the time. I mean, sometimes, when you talk about the weather a little bit or a few other things, that's okay, but we shouldn't really talk too much about other stuff, especially like not business-related stuff. Talk quietly as well. Don't be loud. Again, so like when you're in a library, right? It's shh, right. Be quiet. Okay. In the temple, it should be like that too. It shouldn't be like a market, open market. Treat people with propriety. Again, be kind. Be nice to people. Show manners, etiquette, and make them feel at home. Feel like they're entering a warm, a place of warmth and welcome. Okay, greet and welcome the Daokin. Okay, and don't be a stranger, right? So especially if there are new people coming in, they don't know anyone, then we should make them feel welcome. Teach Daokin in the temple rules and proprieties. So especially if they're new or not, maybe they're not new, but even they're old timers, but they don't know the rules, the proprieties. They don't know how to do the arrival bows. If we see that, we should help them to learn those. Okay, the guide the Daokin and also in the principles. So encourage them to learn these things. Encourage them to come to class. We have to sit still and be dignified, right? So not like sitting cross-legged or the legs feet up, or some people, they like to shake their legs. I don't know why, but I guess maybe a nervous habit or something. But yeah, that's not very dignified. right? When we're sitting, right, we should be sitting. We should sit like they say, like a bell, like a big bell. It's very stable, and and when we're standing, we should be standing upright, firm, also very steady, like they say, like a pine tree. So those are those part of the four all-inspiring. What do they call it? The postures. Okay. That Buddha talked about. Okay, so be humble and don't be afraid to ask. Okay, so again, especially like we have classes, definitely if we have questions on our mind, if we have doubts about things, we should definitely ask about those. Okay, try to clear that up. Eventually, those doubts and questions in our mind could cause us to either stop cultivating or whatever, retreat, regress. That could be a potential problem. So we have to kind of don't feel like be embarrassed or ashamed to ask any questions. I mean, that if there is a legitimate question, then we should ask it. Okay, try to get an answer to it. Etiquette between Chen and Hoshi again. So this is part of the Chen Sang Qi Xia. Maybe it could be part of that. How we deal with those who are Chen and those who are Hoshi. Stand up when responding. Okay, so again, kind of like in a class setting, if you're asked, the lecturer asks a question, then we can stand up to respond. We typically don't do this, I guess, but that, yeah, I mean, we should try to do these. There's no chatting or giggling in class, all right, so that's kind of makes sense. Listen attentively and solemnly. Again, we shouldn't be playing with our phone, chatting on the phone or whatever. Do not speak unless requested. Again, this is also, for the most part, most of the lectures, they're like kind of lectures, so usually we wait to the end to ask questions, right? Unless they open it up, to be a little bit more interactive, right? Respond when called upon, again, so this is something that you should do. And then no distinction between rich and poor. Yeah, so basically everyone has the same Buddha nature. Everyone should be treated the same in the temple, right? There's no difference like, just because this person made a huge donation that we treat this person special, right? They get a special seat. It's not like that, okay? In the eyes of Buddha, well, in our eyes too, I mean, that shouldn't matter, right? It's just everyone is here to learn to cultivate, all right? And so if I had said anything wrong or not satisfactory, I asked the Buddhists for forgiveness and also asked Transmitting Masters and lectures for their corrections. Thank you.